Most men stay broke, not because they lack ability, but because they were trained to follow a script that never existed. They wake up, they obey the rules, they hustle, they sacrifice, and still, they end up chasing crumbs. Look around. The loudest men scream for attention, but money never sticks to them. It drifts silently to the ones who don't need to shout. It flows to the men who never announce their moves, because they wrote the very script that everyone else is blindly reading from. Rule 1. Master the game, not the crowd. The tragic truth is, most men don't even realize they're inside a game. They chase visibility. They crave applause. But real power never begs. It doesn't plead to be noticed. It engineers. It observes. It stays invisible until the strike is clean. There is a reason the same families have ruled for centuries. A reason why certain names never show up in headlines, yet own the companies that print them. The Rothschilds weren't ranting online. The Rockefellers weren't chasing applause. The dynasties of Asia didn't go viral. They went silent. They went unseen. Because they understood what you were never taught. Power isn't about being seen. It's about never being read. Machiavelli knew this long ago. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. But command isn't about shouting. It's calibration. It's the weight of the man who walks into a room and makes others doubt themselves without saying a word. That kind of power is not earned by effort. It's engineered. It's built like architecture. And it's built on one principle. The crowd is the distraction. Real wealth is created behind the curtain. Here's why most men stay stuck. They expose themselves. They explain. They reveal their blueprint. They want to be understood. But every word without purpose is a weapon handed to the enemy. Every confession gives away unpredictability, gives away leverage. They think they're building connection. In reality, they're just making it easier to be controlled. Which leads us to Rule 2. Build many faces, show only one. The powerless man shows the same face to everyone. The powerful man knows better. He has one face for negotiation, one for seduction, one for war, one for peace, one for solitude. The real face? It stays buried, not because it's fake, but because it's sacred, too valuable to hand away. You were told masks are dishonest. That authenticity is strength. But that was never meant to empower you. It was meant to make you predictable. A general doesn't announce his battle plan. A chess master doesn't reveal his next move. The man who walks through life without disguise is not real. He's just naive. And the more others know about you, your fears, your doubts, your blind spots, the easier it is to control you. This is where elites divide from the masses. They don't reveal. They reveal only what creates leverage. They don't express. They express only what confuses others. They're not real. They're strategic. That's what makes them untouchable. Which brings us to Rule 3. Exploit information. Never leak it. Most men spill. They overshare their plans, their wounds, their desires, their next move, all for the cheap thrill of being understood. But every careless word is a map leading to their own defeat. You don't realize it until someone uses your own blueprint against you. The powerful man does the opposite. He listens. He gathers. He dissects tone, posture, silence. Every word from others is an X-ray. Every smile is a clue. Every slip of the tongue is stored. He speaks last. He reveals least. And he lets others expose themselves in the silence he creates. His dominance doesn't come from expression. It comes from precision. And this is the lesson no one teaches you. Success isn't about performance. It's about perception. Influence doesn't belong to the loud. It belongs to the unreadable. The man who stays silent while others shout. the man who observes while others confess, the man who waits while others reveal themselves. Control begins with mystery. Wealth begins with concealment. Power begins the moment they can't define you. So if you want to rise, stop performing, stop narrating, start designing, start distorting. Because if you're not shaping perception, you're already trapped in someone else's frame. And if you still believe wealth is just money, you've already lost. The true currency is attention. The true weapon is ambiguity. The most dangerous man in the room is not the one who speaks the most, but the one who knows the most and shows nothing. If you refuse to stay blind to these games of power, like the video, subscribe, because what's coming next, they'll never teach you. And when this ends, comment the rules that struck you the hardest. Write them down. Engrave them into your mind, because every time you remember one, you move one step closer to untouchable wealth. The average man wakes up and immediately begins to bleed. Not blood, something far more valuable. His time, his focus, his energy, every ping from his phone, every shallow conversation, every forced smile, every empty apology offered just to avoid conflict. All of it drains him before his so-called grind even begins. And then he wonders, why am I exhausted? Why do my efforts produce so little? Why does wealth never arrive, no matter how hard I work? Here is the answer. Rule 4. Weaponize time like a tyrant. The rich don't spend time. They rule it. They slice their hours into blocks. They assign each block to a concrete outcome, and they eliminate anything that dares intrude. They do not live in reaction. They live in ritual, because they understand what the poor will never grasp. Time is not a resource. It is a battlefield. Either you conquer it, or it consumes you. You were taught to seek balance, but balance is a myth. The elite never chase balance. They impose structure. Every hour answers to them. Every day is a deployment. Every week is a campaign. When you see a powerful man moving slowly, calmly, without urgency, it isn't because he has more time, it's because the battlefield is already engineered to fight for him. He doesn't run. His systems do. And that is why you're tired. You think being busy is noble. You think effort equals value. But you're trapped inside a calendar designed by your enemies. You respond to noise. You serve everyone else's priorities. You rest when you're told. You grind when permitted. That's not life. That's obedience. The man who builds wealth does not bleed hours into conversations that go nowhere. He doesn't waste energy on people who provide nothing. He doesn't bury himself in routines that burn hours and create dust. He does not chase dopamine from notifications. He does not scroll to escape. He manufactures victory, and dopamine becomes the byproduct. Which brings us to Rule 5. Turn people into assets or obstacles and treat them accordingly. You believe your network is support, but most of it is dead weight. People who drain your time, people who demand access but deliver nothing. You entertain them out of habit, out of guilt, out of fear of being alone. But here is the truth. Every hour spent around mediocrity infects your trajectory. The Machiavellian doesn't keep friends. He keeps function. Every person is measured. Do they produce outcomes? Do they sharpen my discipline? Do they expand my leverage? If not, they are not enemies, but they are liabilities. And liabilities are cut. No announcement, no speech, just silence. Because silence is not only power, it is pruning. Look at the richest men alive. Do you think they attend every gathering, reply to every message, entertain every request, number? They vanish, they delegate access, they build layers between themselves and the noise. And as those layers grow, so does their empire. But there is a deeper layer most men never notice. It isn't only time thieves or social clutter that keep them poor, it's themselves. Their inability to master the one force more destructive than distraction: emotion. Which brings us to Rule 6. Emotions are leaks. Seal them. You walk into a room and broadcast your mood. You sigh and reveal tension. You apologize and reveal insecurity. You flinch under pressure. You celebrate too soon. You vent to people who are not building what you're building. And in every one of those moments, you bleed energy. You bleed leverage. You bleed control. Understand this: emotion without purpose is a weapon, pointed at your own skull. The elite don't suppress feeling. They redirect it. Their rage becomes focus. Their fear becomes foresight. Their sadness becomes silence. They don't react. They respond. They don't flinch. They absorb. And when the strike comes, it is not born of feeling. It is born of clarity. That is why you never see them panic, or pout, or scream. You see only the outer layer, calm, measured, unshaken. But inside, it is war, calculations, pressure valves, delayed responses. Because they know what you don't. One emotional leak can bankrupt decades of progress. So they seal everything. They create rituals. They carve out silence. They bleed where no one can see them. And when they return, they are unreadable. And when a man becomes unreadable, he becomes unbreakable. You were told that honesty is power. But in war, honesty is exposure. In competition, vulnerability is currency for your enemy. And in business, emotion is leverage. For everyone but you. The truth is brutal. More fortunes have been lost from emotional outbursts than bad deals. More empires collapsed from weakness shown at the wrong moment than from outside threats. And more men stay poor not for lack of ambition, but because their energy is scattered across things that do not move the needle. If you want to build something indestructible, start here. Ruthlessly protect your time, audit your circle, and above all, master your inner world. Because until your energy belongs to you entirely, you are a slave, even if your bank account grows. The next step isn't about controlling people. It's about controlling perception, and the man who masters frames masters reality. Most men speak first and lose before their sentence even ends. Most men rush to explain. They seek agreement. They try to dissolve tension with words. But here's the truth. Before a deal is signed, before a decision is spoken, the real outcome is already sealed. Because a frame has been set. And once the frame is set, the game is rigged. This is Rule 7. Own the frame, or be trapped inside one. The elite don't enter rooms to adapt. They enter to reshape reality. Their words are not random. They are chosen like weapons. Their pauses are not hesitation. They are snares. Their smiles don't comfort. They disarm. Because they know the law. It isn't about what is true. It's about what feels dominant. What gets accepted first becomes the lens through which everything else is judged. Watch a Machiavellian mind at work. You won't see aggression. You'll see gravity. When they speak, no one interrupts. When they enter, silence follows. Why? Because authority always belongs to the one who seems least desperate to claim it. History proves this. Think of Talleyrand, the silent advisor to Napoleon. He said almost nothing. But when he did, empires shifted. Or look at someone modern like Ray Dalio. In meetings, he doesn't fight for dominance. He redefines what dominance means. He doesn't sell ideas. He frames the world so his ideas feel inevitable. The weak man argues on terms set by others. The powerful man rewrites the terms, and then forces others to argue inside his design. And when he's most dangerous, He lets them believe they set the frame, all while he steers the outcome from the shadows. But frames are not only verbal, they are psychological architecture. They live in the eyes, in the timing, in the stillness. Frames are not built by volume, they are built by rhythm. The man who waits, who lets silence stretch, who responds only after absorbing, that man doesn't just control the frame, he is the frame. Do you know why you keep losing? It isn't because your ideas are bad. It's because you speak from within someone else's frame. You are reacting, not leading. And that's why Rule 8 matters more than any motivational quote or business hack. Feed your mind relentlessly, or be ruled by those who do. The man who doesn't study power will always bow to the one who has. The man who reads casually, listens occasionally, consumes like a spectator. He may feel smart, but he's still programmable, like a soldier on a battlefield with no armor, no training, no plan. The elite don't read for inspiration. They read for weapons. They don't listen to learn. They listen to decode. Every book, every podcast, every reflection. It's not entertainment. It's extraction. It's patterns. It's leverage. While the masses chase distraction, the elite sharpen their edges. They don't wait until wisdom is needed. They embed it before the war begins. That is why they stay 10 steps ahead, why they don't panic when the market shifts, why they move like ghosts while others stumble through chaos. Because while you were watching trends, they were studying architects. While you followed advice, they dissected empires. While you escaped into comfort, they built mental armor. And now, we arrive at the truth most people never want to face. Rule 9. Take ruthless, calculated risks, or stay a servant forever. The greatest lie you were sold is safety, that avoiding loss equals success, that minimizing failure leads to victory. But the opposite is true. Safety is slavery, and the leash around your neck is fear of risk. The elite don't gamble. They calculate. They simulate worst-case scenarios. They build buffers. They sharpen fallback plans. And then, they pull the trigger. Because no empire was ever built from comfort. Every fortune rests on a foundation of risk. Moments where everything could collapse if the mind wasn't prepared. Most men wait for certainty, for permission, for signs. But signs never come. Life only rewards movement. The Machiavellian doesn't need perfect timing. He needs positioning. He doesn't wait for assurance. He seeks the edge. Because he knows. Fortune doesn't just favor the bold. It punishes the passive. You think hesitation is responsibility. But hesitation is the cage. Every time you delay, you tighten the chain. Every time you choose comfort over risk, you declare yourself a servant. The men you admire didn't avoid risk. They mastered it. They made bold moves when others froze. They didn't always win, but each strike sharpened their strategy. Until their tolerance for risk became a weapon, the average man couldn't comprehend. Understand this. You're not poor because you failed. You're poor because you've never stood in a place where real failure was possible. You lived a padded life. And padded lives create padded men. Soft, slow, replaceable. But the moment you rewire that instinct, the moment you seek positioning over pennies, intelligence over comfort, frames over reaction, you stop being ordinary. Because money doesn't follow caution, it follows gravity. And gravity belongs to the man who bends perception, who thinks like a killer, and moves before he's told. You've sealed your leaks. You've mastered your time. You've learned the game. Now it's time to vanish and still win. Because the final law isn't about domination. It's about immortality. Most men want to be seen. They chase applause. The shoes, the watch, the car that screams louder than the man wearing it. all signals of validation, all born from a fear of being irrelevant. But relevance is cheap. What's loud dies fast. What lasts is always quiet. This is Rule 10. Build legacy, not lifestyle. The true rulers of history are not the faces on magazine covers. They are the names hidden in contracts, the signatures embedded in systems, the men whose decisions echo for centuries without their faces ever being remembered. Think of the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the old banking dynasties of Europe. They didn't build to impress. They built to remain. Lifestyle burns. Legacy compounds. Here's the difference. Ego buys toys. Strategy buys permanence. Ego decorates the moment. The architect designs for centuries. The man obsessed with status leaves only debt. The man obsessed with legacy leaves control. That is why the most dangerous men rarely look rich, because invisibility is not weakness. It is a weapon. Every time you flash wealth, you paint a target. But when your wealth is hidden, systemic, untouchable, you can disappear and still win. Legacy doesn't beg for applause. It prints it. It prints in the form of systems that feed your bloodline, cash flow that never checks the clock, ownership that can't be fired, influence that outlives your voice. While others burn their energy chasing attention, the elite build in silence, not because they don't care about being seen, but because they want to be remembered for what they built, not what they flaunted. You weren't born to impress strangers. You were born to design engines of power, to architect machines that move without you, to encode your values into entities, assets, systems, things that don't beg, they decide. And this leads to the hidden law, one they rarely say aloud. Once you understand this, wealth is no longer about working, or chasing, or even earning. It becomes about multiplying, about control without raising your voice. This is the bonus rule. Invest strategically, never emotionally. The poor work for money, the rich weaponize it. Capital is their army. Every dollar is a soldier, either conquering or decaying. That's why they don't buy liabilities. They buy leverage. They don't gamble. They don't chase hype. They don't flinch at noise. They deploy wealth into assets that move without them. Real estate with tenants, businesses with operators, licensing, equity, royalties. They don't trade time for income. They convert wealth into permanence. Even more than that, they build systems that protect sovereignty, assets that can't be fired, that can't be canceled, that can't be silenced. Their wealth whispers, even when the world tries to forget their name. While the masses scream about wins and losses, the elite play a deeper game, one not about riches for now, but influence forever. And here's the truth no one wants to accept. If your wealth dies with you, you never had wealth. You only had an expensive life. Real wealth is what keeps working while you lie beneath the soil. Real wealth is what strikes your enemies, long after they've forgotten your face. This is why the elite disappear, not to hide, but to become immortal, to vanish from the stage while still writing the script, to detach their identity from their influence so completely that even in absence they dominate. You were taught to chase visibility, but the final transformation demands the opposite: silence, scarcity, systems, the ability to walk away and still remain in control. That is the highest form of power, when you no longer need to be seen, and yet everything bends to your design. So ask yourself, when you die, will the world simply reset, or will it continue moving in the direction you engineered? That is the difference between a consumer and a king. One leaves a gap, the other leaves a machine. So comment below, which rule branded itself into your mind, or write down all 10. Because every law you record becomes a weapon in your arsenal, and every time you reinforce one, you take a step closer to sovereignty, closer to legacy, closer to immortality.